And welcome everyone to our meeting today in our 101st year. So again, if you just joined us, if you have a guest, if you're a visiting Rotarian, please drop me a note in the chat box so I don't miss anyone. Let's start off with Pledge of Allegiance and waving our American flag. Alrighty. So everyone with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So it looks like we have one guest, and Mark, you mentioned you had a guest with you here today. Would you like to introduce them?
I do. Thank you, Sue, President Sue and fellow Rotarian. I want to introduce to you, I'm thrilled actually to introduce to you somebody that many of you already know, Elena Harvey. We've just taken her on as our public relations and marketing coordinator here at Union Gospel Mission. And we're so excited to have her on board. And with the indulgence of the club and approval, of course, I'd like to get her involved in Rotary, especially the Salem Rotary Club. Thank you.
Very good. Welcome, Elena. And if you recall Elena's name, she was our original Zoom tech support while she was with Spire. So I saw your face and your name. It's like I had to reconnect. So I'm glad that Mark introduced you to us. So
I'm back.
You're back. So congratulations on your new role with Union Gospel Mission. That's great. I don't see any other guests or visiting Rotarians, so we'll move to bell ringers and Brenna Bauckham.
I have 0 bell ringers, guys. So think up, there is lots to be thankful for. I will start with one, and I've put the link to put it into the pay online. So think up one here or two and help me meet the goals so that we keep Larry Gray, the chair of the Bell Ringing Committee, happy. So I would like to ring the bell for our speaker today, Elise Bauman and Salem Harvest. It's just been such a pleasure to be a volunteer with them and go out and see the good work that they're doing. And actually, I mean, there's so many things that we participate in from a monetary support level, all of us, community-wise. And so it's really nice to have something you can get out and get your hands dirty, literally, and see the difference you're making with these pounds and pounds of tons, in some cases, of food going into the back of the truck. So I would just like to ring the bell. If anybody wants to tag onto that one, go ahead and raise your hand. And if you have something else, please chime in. Ring the bell for Elise and Salem Harvest.
I'll do one.
Go for it. Check.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ring the bell for John McCulley. Unbeknownst to most of you, when we didn't do our Beer Boys function the 1st of August, John had all this beer. And the 4 of us had to suffer because he gave it all to us. So thank you, John.
Ring the bell.
Is that John?
What was that?
So this is Russ. I'm going to join in on that bell ringer.
Imagine my surprise.
Can I do a bell ringer?
Please, Selma.
I'd like to ring the bell for all the people who are working in areas that are impacted by fires right now. Because my sister lives in a different state, but she was under a evacuation order for a while. So it's a different situation when you're there than when you read it in the paper, but it's a whole bunch of people taking care of our citizens. So I'd like to ring the bell for all those who are helping keep our people and every person safe during this fire season.
And I'm going to tag on to that and ring the bell twice. My son is a hotshot for Forest Service here in Oregon, and he's right now in Warm Springs. So those folks work really hard, like Selma said, to keep folks and property safe.
This is Trisha Frizzell, and I will add on to that as well. I was gonna put it in the chat, but my baby brother is also a firefighter, and he's down in Southern California right now, and he's my baby brother. So I worry a lot. And the stories that he tells me just boggles my mind. So ring the bell for those that are keeping people safe and those that are allowing them to, whether it's funding or other resources.
Right. And Rick Gaupo, you have one?
Yeah, I'm going to add on to yours to ring the bell for Salem Harvest. Salem Harvest has been a great partner with Marion Polk Food Share. And this year, the food share, because of community support, have been delivering record amount of food out into the community, 1.6 million pounds in the month of June. But what's happening is we are now facing the same constraints. A lot of the whole food sector is constraints of actually just getting product to us. And so the partnership with Salem Harvest is going to become even more important to fill in some of the gaps that are happening, because Salem Harvest is local and it's getting local food to local families. So thank you to Salem Harvest.
Great, thank you. Tim Nissen, you have one?
I do. I'd like to do a double bell ringer. One, as most of you know, I'm the treasurer of the Salem Rotary Foundation. And so it just behooves me to ring the bell often. Please, those of you who do ring the bell, either send a check to the post office box, or you can go to our website and give online. And then second, I also benefited significantly from John McCulley's generosity and beer brewing prowess. So thank you, John.
And I'll tack onto that real quick. Sorry, Brenna. By virtue of being president, John reached out and offered the Bloom some beer as well. So appreciate the sharing.
Sue, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you, Tim.
I have no video, so I can't see myself. But anyway, I want to ring the bell for the stock market. Yesterday, it went down by about $81, if you will, and I went down 13 cents.
Ring the bell.
I'd like to ring one too. Following up on Rick Galpo and the Marion County Food Share, they just do a fabulous job. And the fact that they're pushing out so much food right now for our community is just great. So ring the bell for the Marion Polk Food Share.
Thank you.
Great.
Now remind me how to pay for it.
There's some in the chat. I just put a link in the chat if you are tech savvy. Otherwise, I'll find the PO box and we'll put it in there.
All right.
Send a check. Larry Gray, did you have one too?
PO Box 3981, 97302.
I do have one, Brenna. Thank you. It's piggybacking on Chuck's. John McCulley has done a fabulous job in supporting the Burgers and Brews event. And John brews beer that is extraordinary for a home brewer. I mean, extraordinary in any case. And so I also benefited from John's brews. And John put out a lot of money, I think, to brew these beers for the Burgers and Brews event. So we'll put some money into SRF to thank and honor John for his contribution to Rotary and SRF. Ring the bell for John McCulley.
Awesome. That was 13. You guys thought up good news out of thin air and we raised some money for SRF. Is there another one or?
Yes, this is Holly.
Thought I heard you.
If everybody is getting in for John's thank you, then I need to thank you too, because some that John shared with Russ shared with me, and wow, that was so good. So I'm in.
Make it 14.
I'm in.
Ozzy.
I'm ringing the bell for whatever that was. I've never heard of Burgers and Brews, but I'll still ring the bell for the cause.
I like it. All right, around 15, we'll cap it there unless anyone has anything else pressing.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, everyone. That was great. And thank you, John, for brewing beer. So let's roll to our vocational moment with Claudia. We thought we would do some quick vocational highlights, but I'll let Claudia explain it. So Claudia.
Hi, so we're going to, since we can't go meet and do some fun things, we're gonna find out vocationally what some of the members of our club have been up to and maybe what they've done in their life of work. We're gonna start with Chuck.
Shelley?
You know, as just the guy that runs around taking your money, logging those steps every day, but or every Wednesday, but maybe we don't know, you know, how he got started. So I'm going to ask Chuck a few questions. We're going to take about 3 minutes here, longer if Chuck doesn't give short answers. So number one, Chuck, where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Astoria Naval Hospital a long time ago and grew up in Southwest Portland.
Okay. What was your first paying job?
Actually, as a kid, I picked strawberries, beans, and carried a morning paper out. Back in the years when youngsters could do those things.
Slave labor, yes.
It worked.
Your first jobs as a child, were they jobs you wanted or were you coerced gently by well-meaning parents?
Well-meaning parents.
Where did you graduate college?
I graduated with a math degree from Oregon State University. Then I spent time in the service, and I have an MBA in accounting from the University of Oregon.
Very good. And what was
As
your
both
first...
my kids do.
Very good. What was your first job after your tour of duty?
After my tour of duty, I went back to graduate school, and then I joined Touche Ross here in Salem, the CPA firm.
Okay. What year did you become partners with Bob and Mark?
Okay, I left, when Touche left Salem in 1984, I went to Portland for 10 years. I came back in 1993 and joined Bob and Mark, and we evolved the name to what we are today.
Although the principles of accounting don't change unless you ask Enron, what would you say has been the biggest change in how you do business during your career?
We were all paper when I started, and we are all electronic. Major differences.
That's a big one. How long have you been the treasurer of the Rotary Club of Salem?
25 years.
25 years. That is a lot of miles. Okay, so now the real important stuff. Did Beer Boys evolve as a direct result of coordinating numbers with Mr. Tim Nissen and the Salem Rotary Foundation?
No, Beer Boys really involved from a friendship with Tim, Bill, Larry, and I.
Very good.
And it's been a wonderful social opportunity.
And although you're officially retired, is there a singular goal related to your career that you would like to achieve?
I want to keep connected to this community. That's my goal.
Very good. All right, there you go. Does anybody have any questions for Chuck?
That was great. Thank you. That was super fun and informative. Thanks, Chuck. Thank you, Claudia.
My pleasure.
So next up is Robin Kerner with a membership moment.
So Robin had something come up, unfortunately, and wasn't able to make it, but she sent me a pre-recorded video of her segment, so I'll share my screen so you can see that video.
Great, thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Robin Kerner. I have the honor of being on the board as your Director of Membership. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about sponsors and how we really want to encourage further engagement for our new members. Over the last year we've done a really good job getting our sponsors to engage with our new members more, but I think that we can do better. And so we're going to try something. As a committee, we talked about for the next year, we are going to split up the Paul Harris points that you receive at induction. So when you induct a new member, you receive points. And what we would like to do is we are going to give you half of the points now and half of the points when your new member receives their blue badge. And we understand that things come up, and sometimes folks never get a blue badge, or they take a really long time, and we understand that. And so as a committee, we will look at those on a case-by-case basis, because we want everybody to have their points. And what we're going to do is we are going to, as a committee, come alongside the sponsor, and we are going to give you the tools and help you feel like you are completely prepared, and that you have the steps to succeed so that you can shepherd the new member through the blue badge process. Because as we all know, when you feel a deeper engagement to club, you're more likely to stay longer. And that's really what we want to foster. So we're going to give it a shot and see how it goes. Should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me. My information is in DACDB, or you can email Lauren, who has graciously decided to take on the new role of the chair for our committee, so that's awesome. I know she'd be happy to answer some questions too. We will get back to you more next week for a little bit more information on what we're doing in membership, and we're so grateful. Thank you for all that you do to engage new members, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
So double check and chat. So we're ready to hand this off to Mark Wolf, who's our program chair today, so he can introduce Elise and we can learn more about Salem Harvest. So Mark, it's all yours. Looking for Mark. Have we found Mark? There he is. Need to unmute Mark.
All right, sorry about that.
That's all right.
It's a treat when we have a program from one of our own members, because not only do we learn about a new subject, but we learn more about that person. And today I'm happy to introduce Elise Bauman with Salem Harvest. Elise grew up in rural southern Nevada, where you ate what you grew. With the nearest grocery store over an hour drive away, meals were well planned and food was not squandered. When Elise moved to Salem 27 years ago, she was in awe of the abundance and variety of fresh food grown in the area, and she was alarmed to see how much was being wasted and to hear of so many people without access to fresh produce. Today, Elise is the executive director of Salem Harvest. She is preventing some of that food from going to waste by leading volunteers in harvesting it and distributing it to hungry families in our community. Elise is a fresh food lover and a wasted food hater. I might add that she was so rural southern Nevada that when her basketball team went on the road, their closest away game was a 2-hour drive. Members of Salem Rotary and President Sue, this is Elise Bauman.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for introducing me. And I'm so excited to be here today to talk about Salem Harvest and all that we do. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and we'll look at a little presentation, a little PowerPoint that I've put together. And like Brenna said, she's been out to harvest. We've had, several different club members who come out to harvest, and our dear Larry Connick, I have to say, is our most dedicated harvester in all the group. I'm always so happy when Larry comes out to harvest with us. So our mission statement is simply to feed hungry families by harvesting food that would go to waste. We accomplish this through volunteer activities. Volunteers come out to harvest the unused crops in Marion and Polk counties. And we're a standalone nonprofit organization that relies heavily upon these volunteers. We have one full-time staff position, and this is our second year with a paid summer intern. Our harvest season lasts about 7 months, from June through December, and we average 400,000 pounds of produce being harvested each year. We collaborate with existing food relief agencies like Marion Polk Food Share, who has been a strong partner for us or with us since the beginning. We began in 2010. These agencies have refined the distribution logistics so well that we don't feel we need to do that, then this leaves us more space to figure out how to harvest the crops most effectively. Something we are proud of is how effective and efficient we are at harvesting. At only 16 cents per pound, that's from farm to agency, we are one of the most efficient organizations of our kind in the nation. Yeah, like Mark mentioned, when I first moved to the Valley some 20 years ago, I was astounded by the amount and the variety of crops grown here that were readily available for me, for everyone. I had never seen before a U-Pick farm. It was just amazing and awesome. It was like heaven. The way I saw it, and still do, is that if you pick it yourself, you know how fresh it is. And I also found that U-picking was less expensive than going to the grocery store or the farmer's market. Another thing that I learned when I got more involved in the community was the amount of hunger or food insecurity that exists here in Oregon. These two things, abundance of fresh crops and hunger, how can they both be possible at the same time? It's a question I asked myself. Why can't families who need food have access to food that doesn't have a purpose? This fresh food that's being left behind. When I happened across Salem Harvest in the fall of 2010 and attended my first harvest, a green bean harvest at Paramount Farms, I was hooked. They were doing just that, reducing hunger by harvesting the bounty of unused crops. It just seems so simple, and it still does seem so simple. Hungry people on one hand, unused fruits and veggies on the other, solve one with the other. Food insecurity is described as being without access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. For me, this is a daunting and scary place to be. It's not that you're hungry all the time, but rather wondering where your next meal will come from or when it will come. Will you have enough food for everyone in the family? How will you pay rent and feed the kids? Thoughts of food and access to food are consuming. With the pandemic and economic uncertainty, more families are accessing food assistance. And from hearing from Rick a few weeks ago, the increase has been sizable. Food insecurity in Oregon is real and growing. Food waste in the United States is the United States is the leading country in the world on the amount of food that is wasted. It's not a good place to be. The #1 country in the world that wastes the most food. It is estimated that up to 40% of the food supply across our country is wasted. It is wasted all along the system, at the processing plant, the grocery store, the restaurant, and in our own homes. Through all my research, however, I am not certain that this 40% figure includes produce that never leaves the field. How could it be counted if it's not picked and weighed? Maybe it's an estimate, maybe it's estimated in there somehow. Either way, 40% is too large of a percent for food being wasted. This picture here is just a field of yellow zucchini squash. And they don't know when it's time to stop growing, but there's tons and tons and tons of food. Like, how big is that field? How can it be counted? It's just unfathomable for me. This list here is a list of crops that we routinely harvest, and we have a few specialty crops that pop in as well. Typically, we harvest 25 different crops per year. Some years we have abundance of squash, harvesting hundreds of thousands of pounds. Then the next year, watermelon or apples will be our largest crops. As a girl from Southern Nevada, when it's difficult to get anything to grow, it's the variety that gets me. I believe I've read that Oregon has or produces 200 different types of crops. It's something that's crazy. You know, something in Southern Nevada that, like, you're lucky if you get an apricot to grow every other year. So why are these crops being wasted? There are just about as many reasons for crops left in the field as there are varieties of crops. As soon as I think we've discovered them all, a grower calls with a new one. Most often, we are called out to harvest because the grower met their contract with the processor, leaving excess food without a purpose. They would like to have the produce be used, but harvesting is expensive. The cost to harvest and transport for donation, not to mention the time it would take, makes it unlikely that growers donate. The second one, one that I really despise, is the flawed, ugly, or people category. These are labeled as quality standards. It's the most frustrating issue for me. Really, can you see the little yellow spots on the broccoli in this picture? Do you think they would taste any different or have any less nutrients because of those little yellow spots? No, of course not. But silly things like this keep produce from being accepted at the processing plant or grocery store. Here's a broccoli harvest picture from last year where thousands of pounds of broccoli was going to rot in the field if we didn't harvest it. Labor inconsistencies played a part in the field not being harvested. Harvesting crews skipped days of work, or only partial crews arrived to harvest, leaving the grower with a crop that he couldn't get to the processing plant. This was his second field, and his third planting was ripening quickly, so the decision was made to leave this field for Salem Harvest and our volunteers. We did our best, harvesting over 26,000 pounds and sharing broccoli with, I believe, every agency from Vancouver to Eugene, and still had to leave 65% of the crop behind. This is something that I've learned. Crops don't stop growing. They don't stop ripening or rotting to wait for us to harvest. Time is of the essence, so we work with speed and urgency. Here is one of many loads of watermelon that we harvested last year from a field in Moala. Picky people was the cause of this field being determined unedible. The grower took a load to a market, and the grocery store chain scanned the melons, found that most had hollow heart. This crack or hollow center of the melon cannot be seen from the exterior of the fruit, but the store would not buy the fruit, claiming people would be unhappy with the product. Hollow heart is caused by incomplete pollination, and the grower attributed it to the fact that a spring storm happened the week his field was in full bloom. Again, we did our best to harvest and find homes for all the delicious sugar baby melons that we could, a total of 96,000 pounds worth. Quality standard issues are crazy in my opinion. Cucumbers are too long, too fat, too crooked. Onions, tomatoes, and strawberries are too small. Apples aren't red enough. Zucchinis are too big, just to name a few. My question is, does this make them less tasty? Are they lower in nutritional value? No. So why not eat them? Here's a picture of the most beautiful D'Anjou pears, and the one on the scale is 1 pound 9 ounces. That's one pear that's 1 pound 9 ounces. How many meals is that, right? So why is this thing being left on the tree for birds to eat? The unfortunate tree is within a Bartlett pear orchard, and the D'Anjou trees are only there to serve as pollinators for the Bartlett pears. The grower doesn't have a market for the sporadic D'Anjou, Comice, and Bosque varieties. It's not financially feasible for him to harvest, transport, and find a market. In this 30-plus acre orchard, we harvest about 40,000 pounds of pears a year. This amount translates into 120,000 servings. Compared to the total weight of the Bartletts, this isn't much, but definitely enough for us to worry about. So how do we find out about these crops that are being wasted? We learn about crops that need to be harvested through the relationships that we have with growers. Building these relationships is one of my favorite things. The 60 or so growers that I get to work with care about their community and hate to have food that they grow go to waste. They are in a tough position though. Farming is their livelihood and they need to earn a living. Choices they make must be financially sound. Ultimately, growers sharing with other growers their experiences with our organization is how we increase who we work with. Running a professional organization, having supervised harvest, following all state and national food safety regulations, training all volunteers before harvesting, and providing insurance for accidental injury and the grower's property while we are harvesting is why we continue to get referrals. Our growers know we are there to protect their interests. These pictures here on this slide are of some of our very dedicated growers. They've been with, the ones here on this slide have been with us since, I think, probably 2012, 2013 or longer. It's just amazing, and we so appreciate the growers who look out for when crops are needed to be donated, when they're there and sharing with others their experiences. As you can see, we have harvested a lot of fresh produce. Sometimes it's thousands of pounds at a time, like this cauliflower or butternut squash. Other times the volume is less, but the deliciousness of the fruit is more desired, like blueberries, marionberries, and figs come to mind. I feel that each harvest is unique and has its own purpose, be it for the quantity of the produce available and the far-reaching effects it will have, to the educational factor of the produce we are harvesting, or even the opportunity given to a group to provide service in their community. Every harvest, I believe, has merit, whether the size. We have a diverse body of registered volunteers from all around Oregon. Young families with children, seniors, early retirees, college students, low-income families, homeless, disabled, and unemployed individuals, Russians, Hispanic, Taiwan, Japanese, and so many more. Inclusive is how I like to best describe Salem Harvest. We have a place for everyone. Because crops won't wait at perfect ripeness for us to come harvest, we have learned how to plan and mobilize quickly, working with a sense of urgency. We typically have 2 or 3 days notice for planning. However, with our amazing and dedicated volunteers, we can get a call at 8 o'clock in the morning and be in the field harvesting with 30 volunteers that evening at 6 p.m. It's not uncommon or unlikely, and it's amazing, like I said, and only possible with such dedicated volunteers. Volunteers may take home up to half of what they harvest. The other half, and usually more, is donated. We love that families and people who need the food are able to come out and get the freshest, healthiest food at no cost, allowing them the dignity of supporting themselves, and at the same time, providing the same fresh food for a family elsewhere in our community who couldn't make it out to harvest. The number one reason why people come out to volunteer is to feed their own family. Just this past Monday, Pam, a volunteer who was out harvesting apples with us, let me know how grateful she was that she had the opportunity to be there, that it really helped ease her mind as she is facing a layoff at the school she works for. She said, "Knowing that my cupboard has 24 quarts of applesauce in it for the winter will just make me feel more secure." not to mention help stretch her food budget. Secondly, and increasing in numbers, are the volunteers who just can't see people go without fresh produce, especially when the produce will just rot in the field. This group comes out day after day, harvesting the same thing perhaps, never tiring of yet another morning picking plums or tossing cauliflower heads, giving it all for donation. Other reasons people get involved include enjoying the outdoors and spending time with friends and family. That's especially important this year. They come out to teach their children. They come out to learn about Oregon agriculture. We are right there in the field, so it's hard not to pick up something new. As you can see by our pictures here that I have on this particular slide, you can see families come out, groups come out. We're wearing masks this year for COVID. Children, all different ages, types, and varieties. Everyone is welcome. So how can a person get involved? Well, volunteer is first off, first on the list and very fun and informative. You can volunteer to come out to harvest. Like I said, families, coworkers, friends, school groups, and service organizations volunteer to harvest. To register, you simply go to our website and click on the volunteer button. If you have crops, you can donate those by giving me a call, or you can register your crop online at our website. And funds are always welcome. You can do that by donating online at our website by clicking the donate button, and our website is just simply salemharvest.org. Salem Harvest, we rely on individuals, community members to donate funds. And for as much as we accomplish, I believe our $90,000 annual budget is small in comparison. Besides direct community support from individuals, we receive funds through a season sponsorship program for local businesses, where their logos and business names are seen by thousands of people who visit our website weekly, daily, and at times hourly. Our volunteers are crazy about checking the website for latest updates. We also receive funds through fundraising events like our annual Race to Save the Harvest and Hunger Deserted event, as well as corporation and foundation grants. We are not funded by any other nonprofit organization or government agency. Like all businesses, organizations, and really people in general, Salem Harvest has had to make some changes to the way that we do things due to the coronavirus and the pandemic. The Oregon Department of Ag was quick to suggest guidelines allowing us a path to remain in operations this summer. Wearing masks while harvesting was a difficult suggestion to mandate early on, especially since masks hadn't been yet required statewide. Now it just seems like we are ahead of the curve. We physically distance from each other as much as possible, and we are limiting the number of adults in a harvesting group to 12 in an effort to provide plenty of space for everyone. Logistics for harvesting has become more complicated due to the pandemic. We've created different harvest groupings based on age. So we have we have a senior harvest where only people 55 years and older can sign up for that harvest. So folks know coming out who they're next to, knowing that they won't have a small child running around and touching them or something like that. And then on the other hand, we have a young family harvest time where families with children 8 and younger come out all at once, knowing that the families they're coming will know that they're just going to be there with other young families. To harvest much as possible and meet the COVID requirements, we are staggering the different groups, overlapping times sometimes, being aware of where groups will be and who will be using which space, really trying to limit that interaction between age groups. New and different supplies were needed this season. Masks, extra gloves, special sanitation supplies, as well as field totes and harvesting buckets had to be purchased so that Salem Harvest is responsible for containers being properly cleaned and sanitized. Again, an awesome relationship that we have with Marion Polk Food Share. They have a giant commercial dishwasher, so we get to go in there after each and every harvest that we have, and we run our buckets through the dishwasher so that they're ready for the next harvest, clean, sanitized, and ready, COVID-free, and all sorts of other bacteria that could be on food is also missing. Love our relationship. So, and in conclusion, Salem Harvest only exists because of their cooperation and collaboration among many different groups. From volunteers dedicating time to harvest, farms looking for opportunities where food they grow can be used, to community groups looking for ways to help, food banks and pantries distributing the food, and foundations, businesses, individuals financially supporting harvest. We bring the community together to alleviate hunger. This is a community effort and is why I love leading Salem Harvest. All right, I think I've left lots of time for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
And I would love to hear all the questions that you have.
You can put, okay, Warren, you've raised your hand. What's your question?
Okay, unmute. Takes a second to unmute. My question is, do farmers ever let you use their equipment to harvest so you don't have so much hands-on and you can harvest more volume?
At times, yes, Warren, at times, like in one of the slideshows there, we have a grower up in Aurora who grows green beans, and he finds it absolutely ridiculous that I'd take 100 volunteers out for 2 hours to pick green beans by hand, because at the end of 2 hours with 100 people picking green beans, we still only end up with like 1,200 pounds of green beans, where it takes him 20 minutes to drive through his field with his green bean harvester. So he's like, I have extra green beans, come pick them up. So at times, yes. At times, yes. Other times, though, it's just the equipment just is not available. And oftentimes, the things that we harvest are hand harvest only type things. We very rarely get corn because machine harvesting corn is so efficient. We very rarely get that unless somebody has grown it especially for us, or there's wind damage or weather damage along those lines. But typically we're hand harvesting a lot of things, so equipment doesn't really play in. But at times, yes, Warren, people do donate their equipment, which is awesome, which is amazing.
I just want to give you kudos because I've seen you so many times out at Marion Polk Food Share where I'm on the board of directors, and you're constantly out there shuffling food around and getting things out. So kudos to you.
Thanks, Warren. It's a pleasure to be in such a great partnership with Marion Polk Food Share. It really is.
Great. So we have questions, both hands raised and some folks in the chat that are asking a question. So I'm going to go back and forth between the two. So Larry Connick, you're up next. Volunteer extraordinaire here.
Exactly. Larry loves it. I love Larry. I don't know if Larry loves us.
Thank you. I've been volunteering with Salem Harvest for probably 3 or 4 years, and I really do enjoy it. Elise is really a great person to work with, and Grace this year has been a superb intern, I guess, and the rest of the volunteers are also really wonderful too. It really makes my summer when I get to be able to go out and do some harvesting, and I see that I'm doing some good for others as well as for myself. One question I do have for you is what % of your harvest food do you take directly to Marion Polk Food Share and they distribute it, and how much do you have to find places to take it to and physically get it to where it needs to go?
Oh, great question, Larry. And this falls into that COVID challenge area. Typically in years past, we just take it all to Marion Polk Food Share for distribution because they are so awesome, and they have many, they are 120 different food pantries to spread it through. But because of the challenges with COVID and how much food is going through Marion Polk Food Share this year, and it's their resource availability, we're finding, Tom there at the warehouse, we're finding that at times it's difficult to get it through the system at the food share. So right now I'd say 50, maybe 60% of the food goes to Marion Polk Food Share, where 40% or so is, we're finding smaller niches within the community to put that food, like Salem for Refugees, or we take it directly to, you know, pantries or services where meals are served, like Union Gospel Mission or Salvation Army, Samanka Place, those kind of areas. We're taking out that middleman, you know, trying to get the food into the locations where it needs to go, and take out that resource that's being stretched already. And we discovered this last year. At some point, the distribution stream that Marion Polk Food Share uses and has, which is amazing and awesome, but after 100,000 pounds of apples trying to go through that system in a matter of months, it kind of gets taxed. So reaching out into other areas is an amazing thing for us to stretch and get to. So yeah, good question. Thanks, Larry.
Great.
And thanks for coming out.
Brenna, you had a question for Elise.
Yeah, I was just curious how big of a harvest has to be available in order to justify Salem Harvest coming out to glean.
Hi, thanks. Good question. We do have backyard harvests that do happen in the city of Salem. We have a team of dedicated volunteers who like to go out and make that special connection with homeowners even. So if you have a tree or two of apples or pears or something, you know, it's usually a tree fruit, then you can definitely jump on our website and register your tree. And Dick will probably, he's our leader on the backyard harvest. He'll give you a call or send you an email and ferret out whether it's something valuable, not valuable, but useful to come out and those sort of things. But typically it's a couple of 100 pounds of fruit on the tree. As far as a farm, it all depends. You know, it all depends. Are we picking aronia berries or eggs or kiwis, something unique? Then yeah, we might stretch a little further. It all depends. It all depends.
Great. Past President Tim, you have a question.
Elise, great presentation. Thank you. Is Salem Harvest a part of a national group of similar organizations? And if not, it seems to me you ought to franchise this, because there must be hundreds of similar blessed communities, you know, in agricultural areas that could feed a lot of hungry people.
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you, Tim? You would think. And there has been talk, and there I am in a group of about 5 different large organizations like ours here on the West Coast, and we share ideas and those sort of things, but nothing formal, nothing formalized. Our database manager, Dick Yates, who is one of the founders of Salem Harvest, he is the creator of a not-for-profit business called GleanWeb, and he created our database and our website and how it tracks growers and volunteers and everything like that. And he has shared that with about a dozen and maybe more by now groups across the nation, all the way from Georgia up into Maine, and his latest is Hawaii, of which I volunteered to go out and, you know, make sure that they're doing it right and giving them pointers going to visit, you know, Hawaii. Why not, right? I might even pay for half my airfare. But hey, you know, we foster other groups as much as we can. It's amazing how many different groups, you know, give us a call and reach out to us to find out what we're doing and how we are able to really rescue 500,000 pounds in a summer. And I gotta say, there's other groups down in Southern California that say they rescue more, but that's the word, they rescue it, and I'm putting quotes around it, they rescue it because they go to farmers markets and they take it off trucks They aren't just out there picking it off the ground. They're cheating. They're cheating.
Very good. Selma has a compound question for you.
Yeah, you bet. Go, Selma. Oh, can't hear you.
You got it. There you go.
You answered part of it because I was wondering where the destination was for all this food that you harvest. And is it possible to, like, say, bring it, sorry, cat just bit me, bring it to certain places, such as, you know, Boys and Girls Club, so parents can grab some on their way, you know, they're working all day, they pick up their kids, they don't always have time to go to the store, they could grab a bag of a variety, or even can it be brought to Meals on Wheels for part of their ingredients, or even just pass on some fresh fruits and vegetables to their clients, because I know a lot of isolated seniors don't get out very much, especially during COVID, they're not getting out at all. Could they have, like, you know, a pear or a plum or something that is fresh and right off the tree? And, you know, we're all doing this heirloom stuff these days. And so, hey, this is real stuff off a real plant.
That is true. And yeah, exactly. And from my understanding, especially the Meals on Wheels, since that's under the umbrella of Marion Polk Food Share, the food that we take to Marion Polk Food Share could and perhaps does. I know it definitely goes to Center 50 Plus because I've driven it over there, you know, and a distribution. Well, we took watermelon over there last year several times because the sugar babies are a smaller variety. Man, everybody loved those. But, you know, seniors were taking them home left and right. But as far as Meals on Wheels, I believe that Steve uses some of the fruit that we harvest in his meal prep and things like that. Boys and Girls Club, I don't know why we couldn't go drive over and drop off food, especially since the Boys and Girls are serving dinners on Thursday nights, from my understanding. So yeah, exactly. These is exactly the places where we would love to take the food and have it available throughout our community, for sure, for sure. And Selma, being somebody in if I'm correct, in the belief or the wanting of people to eat healthy fruits and vegetables, right? You know, in medical reasons, I firmly agree with, you know, having that available for parents to take home for their kids to eat and seniors to have is that fresh, healthy fruit and vegetable versus a bag of chips or a marshmallow or whatever. Exactly. That's another reason why I absolutely love what we do is, like, it's so fresh and healthy and, like, it's amazing. Yeah.
So we have time for just two more questions. And Kristen, did you had a question? I'm not sure if it was answered in some of the other conversation. Kristen?
Yeah, Elise, thank you. I just wondered if, and I may have missed it, you may have said it, where exactly the farms are located. Are they all in Marion County? Are they Marion Polk County? Or how do you know, like, there's a big one out in Kaiser behind the Volcano Stadiums, you pick Blueberry, and I'd love to know if that's one of the ones that you all go to, or I guess.
Yeah,
okay.
No,
yeah.
Great question, Kristen. You bet. That particular farm is not, but there is a farm back there that has cherries that we harvest from. Maybe it's not the same. She doesn't have that many blueberries. But no, yeah, we go to farms across Marion and Polk counties. And then there's the little reaches that might go into Clackamas County or Yamhill, and sometimes we'll end up down in Lynn a little bit. We really do try to stay in Marion Polk County just so that our volunteers don't have to drive that far. But then as I start looking, I can go through my database and find out how many people volunteer who live in Aurora. And then I'm like, well, if they live in Aurora, they could drive to Wilsonville. That's a really short distance. Or they might already live in Wilsonville, you know? So as our group continues to expand, we sometimes reach out of Marion and Polk County for different reasons in different places. So, and some of our growers have property or their farms are in Lynn County and Marion County, or Marion County and Clackamas County. So it's really hard to make that dividing line. and why should we?
There we go.
It's going to waste.
Thanks, Elise. So I'm going to wrap up with Rick Galpo, and then we'll wrap up the meeting. So Rick.
I wanted to thank Elise for the great partnership. Salem Harvest has just been amazing. And Elise is right that there was a moment in time when the food share was getting just so much food from various programs that it was actually being tough for us to manage. For better, not for better, but that's actually not the case right now. So I actually do think, Elise, that we'll be as open as before. Yeah, that's good news and it's good news because that really produces a lot of fresh produce. The bad side is some of the bigger partnerships we have through support are winding down just a little bit. Another story, but I will say there's one of the blessings about COVID, and maybe blessings is not the right word, but is rethinking some operations. And the goal has never been to get food into Maine Public Food Share's warehouse. The goal is always to get food out to the community. And so we are even working with our grocery stores to deliver directly to pantries. And if part of what the food share if some of our work is actually just shortening the connection between field to family, then we're all for that. So, and Elise has been just an amazing partner for the last, 8-10 years? It's been pretty amazing. So, and finally on that, I would just say, again, Maine Public Food Share, we get such good quality food, but none of it is as fresh and as good as the food that comes from Salem Harvest. We can literally get something off of the field in the morning and out to a family in the evening because of Salem Harvest.
Great. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Elise. This was really, you were so informative, but really truly inspirational too, of the efforts that you're making to help feed our families throughout the valley. So
I have one more request that perhaps our hands-on service group committee would like to contact me, or we can contact each other. And September is our biggest month of any day you want to harvest, we're going to go harvest something. If we wanted to have a Rotary Club service day or a service harvest and bring out folks and harvest and have fun and all that sort of stuff with our masks on and it's socially distanced, area, we could actually see each other. We'd have an excuse to look at each other in the eye.
There you go. Reach out to Adam about that for sure, Elise.
We'd love it. We'd love it.
That's a great idea. So I totally blew it at the beginning of our meeting to introduce Sherry Patterson to give us our words of inspiration to start our meeting. So now I'd like to hand it off to Sherry to give us our words of inspiration to send us through the balance of the afternoon and the rest of our day. So again, Elise, thank you so much. Truly appreciate what you do. So Sherry, sorry, you're probably gonna come yell at me later once we get off the meeting, but Sherry, would you please share your words of inspiration?
Thank you, President Sue and fellow Rotarians. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to encourage and be kind as we acknowledge the mindfulness within us all. I read recently about a man who had a near-death experience following a heart attack. He felt that he returned to his body, and the first thing he saw in his hospital room was a rose. He experienced seeing a rose as if for the first time, realizing that he was intimately connected to that flower. Now when he walks through life, he feels as though he is one with nature. He realized directly his participation in the web of life. Mindfulness is the state of being conscious and aware of something like hunger, for example. Today, choose a piece of food and eat it mindfully. Be aware of its look, smell, and feel. Notice the way that your mouth fills with saliva in anticipation of its flavor. Be aware of each bite moving down your throat into your stomach. To be mindful is to be present in your higher self rather than your ego. To be mindful is to be thankful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you. That's a good way to send us off for our afternoons. So in conclusion, our next meeting next week, we have Ethan Udo-Sanada, Co-Deputy Superintendent of Salem-Keizer School District. He's going to talk with us about the comprehensive distance learning model we'll be rolling into for the school year and how we can support our students and our families through this unique time of learning. And Laura Tiffin, our South Salem High School principal, will be our program chair next week. So thank you all for your time. Elise, again, thank you. Mark, thank you. It was a wonderful program. And everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everybody.